This is the Brandon Smith Show. I am your host, Brandon Smith, and the entire purpose of this show is one singular thing, and that is to help you live a life more free from dysfunction. And so for our topic today, we're going to talk about that leap into freedom. In other words, entrepreneurship. And what does it look like to become an entrepreneur? How do I know if I'm ready to become an entrepreneur? And what makes a successful entrepreneur? So to guide us in the discussion, I get to bring on one of my great friends and colleagues,
and previous
professor of entrepreneurship, Charlie Goetz. Charlie.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me.
I am thrilled to have you. So before I jump into you telling your story, I'm amazed now to look at all of Charlie's bio because I just know Charlie as Charlie. And I said, so Charlie, how do you want me to introduce you? And so, of course, professor of entrepreneurship at What Business School. 17 years now?
Too many years. 17, yes.
17 years. Wow. Okay. And you've written 3 books.
That's
on
correct.
Entrepreneurship. You've got a nonprofit.
2 on entrepreneurship and 1 on novel.
Yeah, 2 on entrepreneurship, 1 on a novel. You have a nonprofit.
I have a nonprofit I run in Africa.
A nonprofit you run in Africa. You sit on multiple boards.
Yes.
And you're invested in multiple companies.
Yes, at this point, about 16 different companies.
Jeez, Charlie, am I missing anything?
You said more than enough.
Do you sleep?
Who needs sleep anymore?
Yeah,
Who needs that? You know?
My producer, Isaac, when it was in the back, he said, amen.
Amen.
So, all right, Charlie, before we jump into this topic of entrepreneurship,
yes,
which I'm personally quite passionate about, as I know you
are.
I'm
glad you are.
I better be.
Yes, you have.
Tell us a little about how you got into this. What was kind of your journey to get to the place you're at now?
Actually, my entrepreneurship was actually when I was young.
Yeah.
I never fit in. I don't know if I ever told you the story. I had very bad dyslexia, and I couldn't read. Even kindergarten, first grade, all the way up to 6th grade. I couldn't read anything. I was way ahead in math, but I couldn't read. And teachers didn't really want much to do with me because I didn't fit into what their standard was. And so I kind of went my own little way. And one of those ways was out and towards entrepreneurship. Back then, they didn't know what dyslexia was, so they just thought I was probably a little stupid, even though my math showed differently. So by 6th grade, though, I grew out of it. But I had lost all that English time and all that spelling and all the grammar that everybody else had. But during those early years, I had started little businesses. And by high school, my junior year in high school, I had started a business. I had a neighbor who liked me. The father liked me a lot and realized I was going to be an entrepreneur. I felt like that. And he had a business, the first jean company, actually, the first designer jean company in the country.
Really?
Yeah, and it's called Male Jeans. M-A-L-E, okay? And back then, jeans were $5, regular jeans, but his was $10.
Okay.
They were crazy, wasn't it? It was absolutely absurd pricing then. And so he invited me to go to his manufacturing place with him, and I went to it and enjoyed that. And I realized what happened as I was walking around is they had a place where do you know what an irregular jeans are? Irregular?
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
When something's irregular, there's a little problem with it.
Yep.
So what they would do, they take those irregulars and they would tear out the zippers, and they would put it in, they would chop it up into like cotton again and basically wash the cotton and so forth and use it again. And they say they got about $1 out of it. So I said, how about if I buy your irregular jeans for $2? Okay. And I have a few, at that point I had about $400. I said, let me buy 200, let me buy 200 pairs. He said, fine, you can buy 200 pairs. I don't know what you're going to do with them. And I went to a flea market. There was a big flea market where I lived, and I went to a flea market, and you get a little area booth, if you will, and I had a big table, and I put out the jeans. I told everybody it was irregulars, normally $10, and I was selling them for $5, okay, instead of regulars, and you get the booth for 3 days, and on Friday afternoon when I opened it up, I was sold out by literally about 4 o'clock that afternoon.
Wow. And
this is pretty good. So next week, now I had more money. So I bought 400 pair of jeans. And I went back. And this time I took through Saturday. So by early Saturday, I had sold out all of them. Long story short, in a period of a few months, I had made more money, I think, than my parents were making at the time.
Wow.
Okay. It was a very nice. And I said, this is fun. Starting your own business. And, why do I want to do anything else? And so I had the bug. I definitely had the bug. Everybody always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. And I went off to college, and then I got two master's degrees and went to work for a big company and realized that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I started my businesses. And over the next 15 years, I had built 9 businesses. Most serial entrepreneurs tend to build a business over and over again in the same industry. I'm very ADD, as you well know. And because of that, I ended up building it in 6 different industries. So instead of just, where my background was in financial industry, I built it in healthcare, I built it in radio broadcasting, I built it in sports, I built it in something else.
Wow.
Oh, restaurants, I'm sorry, fast food.
Wow. So, and I think that's the part that's so amazing about your story is that not only have you built so many businesses, you've done them in so many different worlds.
Yeah.
Which most people...
I get bored too easily. That's my problem.
Most people don't. And so then at some point then you made the switch and you said, I want to teach entrepreneurs.
Yes. So as I always wanted to teach, and I went to Emory undergrad. So for me, this was coming back. And I thought it'd be great. It'd be a lot of fun. And I always thought you would learn your craft better once you teach it. And that's true. I think I really did. I learned things now that I probably would have been beneficial to know before. But it's good to, I love the teaching. I've been doing, I counted about a year ago, I did about 7,000 students. And that's kind of fun.
That's very fun.
Yeah, I keep in touch. Lots of students are always keeping in touch with me over the years.
Yeah. So I know there are people listening right now that want that want to start a business.
Actually, people listening to this?
There are actually people
You're
listening.
kidding.
I know. You believe it. And they want to start a business. They really want that freedom that is associated with entrepreneurship.
Right.
Maybe because they want the flexibility and they don't want to be kind of locked down 9 to 5. Or maybe they say, I've always wanted to start a business. Or maybe they're just kind of done with the corporate life and they want
what we
want
find
to
mostly
chart
is the
their
corporate
own.
life kills people.
Yeah.
And they don't like being a small cog in a big company, as I hear over and over again. But if you want to start a business and your goal to starting a business is only to make money, don't bother. It's not about the money.
Yeah.
You'll be successful if you have other things that drive you. What drove me, honestly, was the idea of starting and creating new jobs, and I've created over 1,000 new jobs. Okay. Also, the idea of creating something new from nothing. Those are the things that got me up every single morning. You're going to go through times which are very difficult, but the reality is the real entrepreneurs, not the ones who are just there for the money, will fight through it, and they'll frequently be very successful.
So I'm hearing in that a good starting place is you got to have some sense of purpose.
Exactly.
Beyond money.
Without a doubt, it has to be a purpose. It has to be a goal that you want to do. Maybe there's a problem you want to solve.
Yeah.
That's great too.
Problem you want to solve, or you want to create jobs, or you want something else.
Exactly.
Than just money.
Right. If it's just money, you're going to fail much harder because when the problems get tough, when the days get tough, you're going to quit.
Yeah.
It's only when you have that deep, deep drive.
You and I were talking a little about this. So when you have, so I'm going to ask you to kind of replay the conversation we had earlier. When you have a group of students,
Did we talk earlier?
We talked earlier. When you have a group of students in your class,
right,
and you ask how many want to be entrepreneurs,
right,
what percentage raise their hands?
About 70%.
And then how many actually at graduation become entrepreneurs?
We get about 3 to 5% immediately, and then a lot larger percentage 3 to 5 years out who realize, I went into the big corporate world because I can get a nice big paycheck, but I hate it. I hate it so much. Charlie, I want to go back to you. I want to talk to you about my business ideas. I have a business plan. I want to tell I'm having some problems with my business. All of these different things. I love that, but I get 400 to 500 emails a day from it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you see people that make that leap and are successful,
right,
other than purpose, what else? What else does it take to be a successful entrepreneur?
It takes passion.
Okay, say more about that. What do you mean by that?
You gotta be excited in the day. You gotta be positive about getting through the day, even with all the problems you might have. You want to be excited with working with your employees, because if you're not excited, they're not going to be excited. Okay, passion. When you talk, I was the number one salesperson, obviously, for these companies in the beginning. Because of that, you have to get your customers excited. I remember I had hired one of my first companies. I hired an IBM salesperson. On paper, he was great, absolutely wonderful. And when I started the company, I said, okay, you're going to take care of sales and I'll do everything else. Within a period of a few weeks, it was obvious he couldn't sell. Now, he was a great salesman at IBM, but IBM sales is not selling a small company sales. You walk in with IBM, everybody knows IBM. They're already saying, okay, I know all about you. You're going to tell me a little bit about the product, and that's fine. With a new company, nobody knows you. You have no credibility, no trust, okay? So what I learned quickly is, okay, then I'm going to have to do the selling too. And he said to me, I became very successful at selling. And he said to me, Charlie, you break all the rules I've learned in selling. He said,
Those aren't the only rules you
No,
break,
I break a
Charlie.
lot of rules. Shh. We don't want those people to know about that. Please. Okay? So you break all the rules of selling, but people are always buying. And I remember a comment that one of my prospects told me when I was selling him. And he says, I don't know what you're selling, Charlie, but you're so excited. I want it.
So there's something.
There are other stories that didn't went the other way.
So passion for you really is about, you're going to have that belief and that energy and that excitement about what you're doing and what you're selling.
Most definitely.
And that's contagious as well.
Without a doubt.
Either whether it's with employees or most importantly, customers.
Exactly.
I remember.
Well, employees are just as important, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you got to build a culture.
But in the starting place, you might not have any employees, or you might have a
very small number,
like mine, where it's a little more of a solopreneur kind of thing.
Right.
And so, but the energy really does matter. I remember way back in the day when I took your class, I remember you saying that where a lot of times MBA students will screw up on starting a business is they want to build it perfectly before they go off and sell.
Exactly.
And you said, don't do that.
No.
Go sell first.
Exactly.
And then figure out how you're gonna deliver on that.
The number one reason businesses fail is lack of sales. Not anything else. The people say, well, they ran out of money. Well, they run out of money because they didn't sell. They didn't run out of money, for no other reason. If you sold, you'd have money.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's all about sell. Get out there. Find out if the customer really wants that product. If it doesn't, then change it. By the way, I've never seen successful entrepreneurs who started a business and ended selling that business exactly the business that started. It changes. It evolves. Because if you don't evolve it and find things, maybe one day you're doing something and you realize, wow, that's I learned something, and now I'm going to turn the business 180 degrees to the right. And next day you're doing that. That's the beautiful thing about an entrepreneurship.
Okay, so I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's almost it's almost like you want people to love their business, but don't fall in love with their business.
Bingo.
Because they're going to have to change it.
Exactly. Right. Exactly right. If you fall in love with your business, then you're going to have a problem. You're not going to change it.
I'm going to copyright that, Charlie.
You feel free to. Feel free to. Any day. It's my pleasure to use, my gift.
Learning something every time I'm with you.
And I learn from you every day.
That's good. All right, so we talk about purpose. We got to have a sense of purpose. Why are we doing it beyond money? You got to have passion. You got to have that energy. Mm-hmm. What else do you see that great entrepreneurs have?
I guess great entrepreneurs have a drive.
Okay.
Okay. They want to achieve. Okay. They have a vision, but they're focused. The vision is a long way. The focus is getting things done. Okay. They will have a passion for winning. Okay. Yeah. But you have to have all of them. You can't have one or two of them, or you have to have all three of those things. And the ones that don't have one of those three things tend not to be as successful.
So that drive is, there's that longer term vision, focus on right now, and also want to win.
Exactly.
Have a competitive spirit.
Right. You have
all
to
those kind of make up the drive.
Right. Otherwise, you'd go out on your sales calls and you'd kind of almost like, oh, I guess they didn't, they weren't interested. Well, guess what? They're not always interested. In fact, there's analysis that shows that when you make a sale call on a prospect, there's a 97.5% chance that they're not actively interested in your product. Okay? That they have a passive interest. Most salespeople have no perspective. So they start selling to these prospects immediately. Okay? They start selling. But the prospect is not interested. All they're doing is being turned off. So how do you go into as a salesperson, how do you go into a prospect and how do you get them interested? Well, the reality is instead of start selling, you first have to start talking about the problem and make sure they understand all the implications so that their low priority interest in your product becomes a high priority interest. And then only when they understand all the implications and what it's going to cost them in time and money and things like that, that's when you can start selling them. Because now they're interested. To
create that kind of urgency, that need to
priority.
Need to solve that problem.
Exactly, that's a priority.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to dig in a little bit further in this, but before we
just dig away.
We've come up on time for our break. So we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us because when we come back, I'm going to ask Charlie about once we make that leap and we're entrepreneurs and now we've arrived and we were there, how do we navigate that? How do we keep ourselves fed and patient and stay in the game?
I'm interested to hear what I have to say because I have no idea.
I have too. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Job plus the right culture plus the right boss equals workplace happiness. The number one reason people leave jobs is problems with their boss. A horrible boss can make us dread every Monday, but an amazing boss can make us so excited to work that we'd go in on weekends. Finding your perfect boss is not only possible, it's one of the most impactful steps you can take in crafting your perfect career. Visit theworkplacetherapist.com and click on guides to learn how to find and get your perfect boss, whether that means making the decision to move on or turning your current boss into the perfect leader you want them to be. Our bosses have so much influence over our work and our whole day. Working for the right boss alone can be a winning career strategy.
Welcome back to the Brandon Smith Show. I'm your host, Brandon Smith, and of course, today we've been talking about entrepreneurship, and I've got my wonderful friend and colleague and former professor, Charlie Goetz, here with us to talk about this. So Charlie, right before our break, we talked about some of those ingredients to be a successful entrepreneur. We talked about purpose, we talked about passion, and we talked about drive. Right. And you broke drive down into a couple parts: vision, long-term vision, short-term focus, and then that competitive spirit.
Right.
Now, let's say we have decided to make the leap. We've decided to jump into the entrepreneurial pool.
Right. You'll never have been as excited as when you do that.
So I've always, from my own personal experience, I equated it as, and once I decided to be an entrepreneur, it was like I was instantly diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Ups and downs.
Because I had days where I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. You close a deal, and then you'd have days when you were
something doesn't happen.
Nothing. Right. You'd just be sitting there, be quiet.
Exactly.
And what am I going to do?
Right. And the best entrepreneurs, when it's quiet, you make things happen.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I want to talk a little bit about. So what do we do? How, because you often talk about the whole statistics around restaurants failing in the first 2 years.
Right.
I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs I've met have made that leap. And within about a year or two, they've decided that it's just too hard for them or it's too scary. And then they go back into a corporate job. Right. So how can we be sustainable during that period, and what makes us keep going?
First, you have to realize it's going to be hard. I'm not going to say you're going to be excited most days, but it's going to be a hard time. There's going to be times when you got to worry, where's the next dollar coming from? What happens if I don't sell this client that I need? Whatever the case might be, there are going to be those days. I'm going to guarantee that. But you have to go in it understanding, and you have to be somebody who can fight through it. Okay? A lot of people get into it, they get excited, they look at all these billionaires. I could be a billionaire. And they get excited about that. But the problem is, it's a day-to-day thing. You're fighting wars on a continuous basis. But if you're upbeat, if you have the energy, there's a good chance you're going to get through it. If you're creative, because you kind of come up with solutions. That's the idea. Problems are going to happen, and you've got to figure out a solution quickly. You got to change directions when sometimes problems are too big, and you got to go, okay, then let's go in this direction. Or you have to find simple solutions sometimes, and so that's what an entrepreneur does.
Do you need a group of advisors or mentor in this process to help you?
I think mentors are wonderful. I think everybody should have a mentor, whether they're an entrepreneur, or whether they're just in the big business world, corporate world. Yes, I advise now that everyone when they start their company, they get a board of advisors. What is a board of advisors? How is it different from a board of directors? Well, first, a board of directors have legal liability. They make decisions, okay? A board of advisors are people who suggest things, recommend things. The kind of people you want on a board of advisors is first somebody with lots of credibility in your industry. If they have credibility and you're not known, but you have somebody with great credibility, you heard the concept of guilty by association? This is the opposite. You're positive by association because that person has such good high image. You want somebody who has the ability, who has great connections in the industry. Somebody who, instead of hiring a whole bunch of salespeople and letting them knock on doors coldly, you get somebody who says, you know what, I got 10 CEOs I can call up for you tomorrow you can get in front of. This way you build your business quicker, okay? Then you may want somebody who's done it before if this is the first time, you might want somebody on the board who does that. You're going to be able to get much better people on your advisory board than you would ever get on your board of directors because there's no liability. These days, people who are successful do not want to be on board of directors. And this, if done correctly, you can leverage a board of advisors so powerfully that that's one of the first things you want to do when you start.
And it sounds like that could be a formalized thing, but even if someone who wanted to be a contractor and have their own small business, they could do it more informally.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now you say, okay, how do I get these board of advisors? These are great people.
Charlie.
The reality is there are so many people who've been successful, who might be retired or in their, who want to give back, who want to be part of something new and exciting. They're not looking for money. Most of them have made a lot of money, okay? So that's not the issue. They want to be part of something, and they want to be asked, questions, and if you have problems, they want to help you deal with them, because that's why they're there.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic advice. Okay, now how long? This is an unfair question, but I love asking.
I love unfair questions.
Unfair questions. How long would you tell an entrepreneur they need to kind of get things going until it really becomes profitable?
Okay.
Are we looking at 3 years, 5 years? Okay. What do you often see?
Again, it all depends on the business. But I see so many, I invest in a lot of businesses, so I look at a lot of business plans, and I see lots of business plans that show they're going to be profitable the first year. It's very, very rare that companies are profitable the first year. If you can be profitable in the third year, that's pretty good. I'd like to see the third year being profitable. By that time, you're going to lose a lot of energy unless you're building this really big company. And because you can be not profitable, even though the company's really profitable, you're pouring that money back into the company, so it looks non-profitable. I'm talking to the point where you could pull it out, but you reinvest it.
Yeah, totally.
That's what we're talking about. Sure. So the goal is how do you get to that point? How do you get a profitability? And I'm not saying it's an easy process, but it's always about sales. Any problem in a business can be made up by a lot of sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I know from my own experience, it took me 5 years until I felt like I was
really on top of it.
Yeah, and I had more
Which
than
is not unusual.
$5 in the bank account.
I thought you had 7.
I did. The 5-year mark. $7 in the bank account.
See, you were profitable.
There was more than one occasion I told my wife, I said, don't write any checks, don't take any money out of the bank account. We have $5. That was more than one occasion I did that. So I don't know if that's common.
Did it stop you from continuing?
No.
It made you more driven.
It just kept me going. It was just a matter of time.
And
for me, it was just about time.
It's the point of the people. Look, everybody's going to have a time when they're thinking, hey, maybe I should maybe I should give up. If you really believe in the concept, if you really believe, look, all these successful companies you see aren't overnight successes. I guarantee you. You look at them all and say, wow, look at these great companies. No, the vast majority of companies take 3, 5, 7 years before they're really kicking in.
Yeah.
So there are very, very, very few overnight successes. And most have crises along the way. Okay, even Apple almost went out of business. iPod saved Apple.
Yeah.
It was a $2 stock.
Yeah.
Don't you wish you invested?
Yes.
I knew you were going to say that. Yes.
Yeah. So, the other interesting thing around this, and I think this is true whether the person's starting a business where they're going to actually create products and put it out there versus someone who's in more of the service line where they're going to be an advisor or some other contractor. Pricing also matters in all this.
Pricing matters a lot.
So how
entrepreneurs make big mistakes here?
Yeah, tell me what you can give us around pricing.
I guarantee you they make mistakes. The classic entrepreneur, when they start their business, they think the way to convince their prospects is to provide a lower price. The reality is that if you're a B2B, if you're selling business to business, and you're selling to a company or middle management, there are so many other issues that this company has to identify with you. For example, you're a startup. How do I know you're going to be in business? How do I know they're not going to get a better price? How do I know I'm not going to lose my job? All of these issues are so much bigger than price. So when entrepreneurs discount their price so much, maybe they'll sell it, but the truth of the matter is they never have enough money to grow their business. Okay? But the reality is the research shows you're better off raising your price instead of lowering your price because people perceive that as you're more confident and therefore they're more likely to want to work with you.
So is there such a thing as too high of a price?
Yes, $35 million for an hour of your time would be too high. $30 million may be ideal.
It's funny, when people start their business and they're in the space where it's services, which is more my expertise, I often say, don't go under $150 an hour.
Okay.
As kind of a starting place. But naturally, you want to be higher than that.
Right, most definitely.
If you've got some level of credibility or expertise.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I'll talk to people that want to come in and price at $75 an hour or $50 an hour.
Big mistake.
And it's really hard to then retrain the customers.
Right, exactly. Because then you have that image of being cheap.
Yeah.
And then that also, believe it or not, no matter how good you are, it doesn't fit. People think, well, it can't be that good. He's charging too little or she's charging too little.
Yeah.
And then you're actually hurting yourself. And I know people out there going, oh, I don't believe that. I guarantee you, raise your prices will be a much better option.
I'm raising my prices.
You should.
I'm raising my
Triple them
prices.
today. Triple them. How much do I owe you today for this?
All right, Charlie, we're getting close to the end. Any final tips you'd have? So for people who are in that entrepreneurial journey, either in it or about to do it, any final thing you'd want to say to them?
Okay. I want to talk about milestones.
Okay.
Okay. The idea that what I've found, and I wasn't very good in the early days, even though I've gotten some success and did well, but later I realized that had I had a process that I could follow on a day-to-day basis, if I can manage my people better, the whole concept of management is being able to follow what's going on every day, right? To know what's happening. So in the case of these milestones, what happens here is you identify, here's what we're going to do. And we're going to manage every individual by it. So now we know if you're on track or not. Most people don't have any way of managing people. They say, here's your project. Go ahead and do it. It gets late. It goes over budget because there was no way to keep them accountable. Having these things that keep them accountable really keep entrepreneurs on track. Entrepreneurs are creative people. They're innovative. They're high energy, but they're not very good managers. Consistently.
And so I'm hearing that goes...
And I was a lousy manager.
That goes both ways. You want to manage your business, but you also need to manage yourself.
Right, without a doubt.
Because if you can't keep yourself moving... Exactly. I never thought of myself as a very structured, organized person.
Right. Most entrepreneurs start off as not very structured.
I've become structured and organized because I had to. Right. I had no choice. Right. If I wasn't going to do... If I couldn't get there, I wouldn't be successful.
Exactly right.
And I became really, really good at being able to estimate how long something's going to take, whether it's driving somewhere or actual piece of work, because
time is everything.
Time's everything for me because I'm billing on time. Right. So time matters. So I got to be able to be really efficient with that.
Right. And my businesses were always mostly products.
Yeah.
So I would actually might start off building a service, but then you productize it because products were actually easier to sell than services, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Mm-hmm. I totally get that. So for me, there's less upfront cost starting a service,
right?
But I have a limitation, which is me.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
I can
you
grow,
can't leverage it that much.
I can only go so far based on what I can do without adding more people.
Unless you can unless you yourself can create products. Maybe think about what kind of things you can do that. Can put in software or something like that, some of your expertise. Well, all of a sudden, instead of selling hours, now you're selling products, and now you can be selling thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Okay, so you heard it here first. Look for a line of workplace therapist products.
They're coming.
They're coming.
I'm investing.
He's investing. You heard it. I don't know what they are yet.
$3. Oh, you had said $7 you had. So
$7. $7. I don't know what they are yet, but I know they're going to solve a problem that you have, and you're going to want to buy them.
In fact, if you buy them now, we'll give it to you for half price.
Always selling. Always selling. One more thing I remember you said in your classes, and I still quote you on this to this day. Well over, this was, 12 years later. No, you said, what motivates people to buy is while they like to buy things that make their life better,
right.
What really motivates people to buy is avoiding pain.
Exactly.
And so really thinking about what's that pain point and how can you kind of meet that?
You want to identify your probability of success is dependent on how big the pain is.
Yeah.
If the greater pain, the old concept I say in class is if, God forbid, you get into a car accident, okay, and now you're bleeding really badly and the ambulance comes, how many of you are going to ask how much it cost? Nobody.
Yeah.
Okay, because the pain is so high.
Yeah.
So you want to find those pains because then price is basically inelastic, and then you can make a lot of money.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, Charlie, I ask all my guests this
at
the very end. What's one life hack, one tip for us to make our lives a little less dysfunctional, a little bit healthier, whether it's professional or personal?
Actually, I kind of gave that away with my milestones, but
I guess you did.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd want to add?
Let me think. What would be a really good tip for you?
I don't know.
Okay. Have fun.
Okay.
Have fun in what you're doing, because if you don't have fun, don't do it.
That's simple,
Very
and yet
simple.
So profound. You ended on
it's
such
deep.
a profound,
it's deep
note, Charlie.
Now, everybody take a moment to just think about that.
Charlie, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us some awesome tips and
thank you for doing
helping me get smarter about my business. So tell us, if people want to learn more about what you're doing or even your books, where can they go to get better around this?
Okay. Well, about my information, you always go on LinkedIn, obviously. If they're interested, I'll be glad to.
And it's Charlie Goetz.
at emory.edu.
At emory.edu. And Goetz is
It's Charles Goetz.
Charles Goetz, Goetz.
Right. So it's Charles.Goetz at emory.edu.
And if you were to recommend one of your books to an aspiring entrepreneur.
I would recommend definitely my Great Entrepreneurial Divide, The Winning Tactics of Successful Entrepreneurs and Why Everybody Else Fails. It's in the 5th edition now.
Awesome.
Okay. We've sold over about almost 80,000 of them.
Nice.
So.
Fantastic, Charlie. Awesome. And thank you all for listening today. Of course, check us out every week. We drop a new show, and you can follow us on Facebook.com/Brandon Smith, WPT for Workplace Therapist, and on Twitter @the WP Therapist. And of course, itunes.thebrandonsmithshow.com.
Good stuff.
And now, if you have not been watching the show, and if you'd like to watch the show, we are now airing our show every Sunday evening at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So you can watch the show live, and of course, then we'll drop it on iTunes. So until our next week, keep up the fight against dysfunction. Have a great week and an awesome life.